of it. So let's just jump right into it, okay? The news kind of got broke yesterday. There were people that were a little, I don't know if upset's the right word. They didn't understand why we didn't wait to interview Jim Leonhard. It sounds like Jonathan Gannon was probably the Packers' top choice for their defensive coordinator spot. Now, they wanted to interview Jim Leonhard. Obviously, Jim Leonhard may have come in like Jeff Hafley, knocked their socks off with an interview, and then look up and go, okay, well, he's actually the guy. He has now surpassed Gannon, right? That could have happened. However, I think it's worth mentioning that there was other interest in our boy Jonathan Gannon. So what Rob Demovsky wrote was a source also said Gannon was drawing interest from both Jim Harbaugh, John Harbaugh for their respective defensive coordinator openings with the Chargers and the Giants. And if the Packers had waited any longer, they might have lost out on Gannon. So imagine, put yourself in the coaching staff's shoes, put yourself in Ed Policy's shoes, Matt LaFleur's shoes, hell, even Brian Gutekunst's shoes, and you're bouncing ideas off each other, which we know the structure stayed in place there to continue to remove the silos. Some of you guys got that. Some of you didn't. That's all right. But so you're sitting there going, okay, yeah, Gannon's our top choice right now. We want to talk to Leonhard. We want to talk to this guy and that guy. And then you hear your top choice is now going to be highly recruited, if you will, by the Chargers and the Giants. You got to make a decision. You got to crap or get off the pot. We talked about it yesterday. However, hiring Gannon now prevents the Packers from interviewing Denver Broncos assistant head coach, defensive passing game coordinator Jim Leonhard for the job. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Rob Demovsky went on to say, while there was mutual interest between LaFleur and Leonhard, the Wisconsin native from former Badgers player and coach, the Packers could not interview him because the Broncos are playing on Sunday in the AFC Championship game. The only time during which the Packers could have interviewed Leonhard previously was during the opening week of the playoffs when the top-seeded Broncos had the bye. That's when the Dallas Cowboys interviewed him for their defense coordinator position. But at that time, Hafley had not left the Packers. So these people are saying, man, LaFleur drug his feet, he drug his feet, he drug his feet. Hafley was still on your staff. So what are you you're gonna go interview a guy and tell Hafley, okay, no, you don't have the job. And there may be rules in place that you can't do that when you've got a sitting coach at that specific spot. I don't know, right? So again, it wasn't as cut and dry as, oh, they should have already interviewed him. So that explains why they hadn't interviewed him up to that point, obviously. So before hiring Gannon, among the known candidates LaFleur interviewed were obviously Christian Parker. We talked about that. Durante Jones, Al Harris, those others there that they were interested in. It sounds like Jonathan Gannon was the top choice. All right. So Gannon, 43, spent 2 seasons as the Eagles defense coordinator. We talked about a little bit of that, right? Like Hafley, Gannon's previous experience was coaching defensive backs. So they obviously want someone who sees the defense, operates the defense as from a coordinator spot from the backside, right? From the secondary up. Obviously, it's a passing league still, even though teams are continuing to press into 12, 21 personnel. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Okay, this is the whole reason I want to talk about this. A source said, and again, this is Rob Demovsky from ESPN, who said a source said that LaFleur was still, quote, working through an additional change to his coaching staff for 2026. LaFleur signed a multi-year contract, blah, blah, blah. So what is that additional change? Are they going to get like crazy and really, really shuffle up the defensive side of the ball? Is that going to happen? Is it on offense? And that's where I put this information together right here, this working through quote. What is it they're looking to change? Are they looking to change OC? Now, we've been pretty vocal on this show. In a perfect world, what I would love to see happen, and again, there is no smoke to the Mike McDaniel fire. I want to be very clear. I'm not sitting here trying to spread a rumor and say, hey, I think Mike McDaniel is going to be the OC. But my perfect scenario, because Mike McDaniel was actually verbally, I think, agreed to take the Chargers OC job. Now, obviously, he can change his mind if he wants to if they haven't signed a contract. But perfect scenario, if I were calling the shots, what I would do is tell Stenovich, listen, we're going to put you back in the O-line room, all right? You can have co-coordinators too. Keep that in mind, guys, right? Like there's a number of different things you can do to, finagle the system if Mike McDaniels wanted to be the OC in Green Bay. And again, we have no reason to think he wants to be other than him and Matt LaFleur are real close. So if it were me, I would demote, right? Or just tell Steno, all right, look, we're going to fire Coach Buckus. I want you in the offensive line room. Hire Mike McDaniel to be your OC and you're off and running. Could that be what's in the works? We have no reason to believe that right now. I'm just telling you from a fan's perspective, which is what I am. That's what I would like to see. Okay. The other thing too is what if Jim Leonhard wants to be a part of the staff? What if he wants to be the passing game coordinator for Green Bay, right? Because they said there was mutual interest there. What if he wanted to get closer to home? Now, the Broncos would have to allow that. Would they? I doubt it. He's their assistant head coach. But that's something else in the back of my mind, just kind of going, what if that's what they're referring to, right? What if it's special teams? Well, Rob Demovsky actually just said on ESPN Wisconsin just a second ago that he said that fans are not going to like this, but Rich Bisaccia is really, really liked all throughout the building, players, coaches, the whole staff, right? So he's probably not going anywhere. I feel comfortable saying it's probably not going to be Rich Bisaccia leaving the team, although who knows? Maybe they hire another special teams coordinator. Rich Bisaccia just stays on as assistant head coach. That could be the case as well. We're just kind of going through all the different options, all the different things that might be falling into place here. So what I did was I did a key search on Adam Stenavich here, okay? And again, if any of this information is wrong, you guys let me know in the chat. We'll correct it. You guys correct it for me in the chat. That's what we do here on this show. We kind of cross-check everybody, right? The latest news regarding Adam Stenavich is that he's currently a top candidate for the Tennessee Titans offensive coordinator position as of today, Monday, January 26th. He's scheduled for a formal interview with the Titans head coach, Robert Saleh. So that's a lateral move, guys, right? He's already the OC in Green Bay. It feels like Matt LaFleur is giving him an opportunity to go somewhere else and get a job before potentially firing him or demoting him. Again, strictly speculation on my part, but is that the move that we're anticipating? And if that happens, then who's going to be the new OC, right? And do you promote from within? That might be the case as well, right? So it talks about the Saleh connection. Obviously, Saleh served as a special coaching advisor for the Packers last season before he joined the 49ers staff. The play calling hurdle, while Stenovich has been the Packers OC for 4 seasons, Matt LaFleur remains a play caller. Moving to Tennessee would represent a major career advancement, putting him in charge of developing 2025 number 1 overall pick, Cam Ward. So that would be, I guess, technically a promotion because he would now be a play caller as opposed to here. We've seen that shuffle in the past. We've seen Matt LaFleur leave the LA Rams, go to the Tennessee Titans because he wanted to be a play caller in Tennessee. And obviously Sean McVay was calling the plays with the LA Rams. So other candidates, Stenovich is competing with Cliff Kingsbury and Thad Lewis for the Titans job. He also drew interest from the Bears head coach, from the Bears head coach, Texans and Seahawks over the last 2 cycles. Okay, I got you in a head coaching search, showing he is highly respected name in league circles. So now listen, let's put ourselves in Tennessee shoes for a minute. Would I hire Adam Stenavich over Cliff Kingsbury? Absolutely not. I mean, it's just me. We haven't seen him call plays. It's kind of an unknown, right? It's one of the downsides to potentially hiring Jim Leonhard as your defensive coordinator, right? If he now all of a sudden calls plays and he wasn't calling plays in Denver, yes, everything is showing he's on an upward trajectory, he being Jim Leonhard. But how effective a play caller will he be? You don't really know until you see that. You've seen that with Jonathan Gannon in Philly, right, where you have one of the best defenses in the league. So impact on the Packers. Now, this is what it talks about potential internal replacements. If Stenovich leaves, it would mark a total overhaul of the Packers offense coordinator spots for 2026. The team has already replaced, obviously, Jeff Hafley with Jonathan Gannon. Potential internal replacements. So let's think in-house. What if Matt LaFleur just promotes from within? Jason Vrabel, he's the current passing game coordinator and the most natural internal choice. Sean Mannion, who's your current quarterbacks coach, could potentially be your OC, your play caller. I doubt he would jump Vrabel. I believe it would be Vrabel first and foremost. But don't forget about Nathaniel Hackett. Nathaniel Hackett, currently a defensive analyst for the Packers, but has a long history as Matt LaFleur's OC. You guys know it's easy to look at what Nathaniel Hackett did in Denver as a head coach. It's easy to see what he did with that horrible roster with the New York Jets, other than Aaron Rodgers, right? They fell flat on their face, don't get me wrong. But when he was in Green Bay with Matt LaFleur, boy, oh boy, y'all remember the gold zone? Y'all remember the red zone efficiency on offense? He created the gold zone. We could use a little bit of that, right? So is he my top choice? No, my top choice would be Mike McDaniel in a perfect world. It's just weird that the Packers have shown no interest in Mike McDaniel at all for anything at all, and him and Matt are so close. I wonder if they've talked behind the scenes, kept it to themselves, and maybe, bang, something could happen. Probably wishful thinking. But, again, just something to keep our eye on. Now, let's see the other trickle-down effect across the rest of the league in terms of offense and defensive staff changes for the Packers, potentially. Diana Rossini says Miami Dolphins defensive coordinator Anthony Weaver will meet in person with the Arizona Cardinals about their head coaching vacancy per source. Weaver, who received second interviews with the Steelers and the Ravens, gets another interview with Arizona. So, obviously, the other 2 positions have been filled. He might be one of the leading candidates for the head coaching job in Arizona. If you're going, Clayton, what the hell has that got to do with us? Jeff Hafley's a new head coach. His plan is to keep Anthony Weaver on as defensive coordinator. If he gets a head coaching job somewhere now, guess what? Now Hafley's probably going to come in and poach some of our defensive assistants, right? And it's something that Rob talked about earlier today. So just keep your eye on the Dolphins, Anthony Weaver, DC Anthony Weaver potentially taking a head coaching job with the Arizona Cardinals. Adam Schefter tweeted out, a busy day ahead for Broncos pass game coordinator and quarterbacks coach Davis Webb. He will, in fact, interview for the head coaching jobs with the Raiders and the Bills per source. It is his second interview with the Raiders and his first with the Bills. Now, why am I talking about the Broncos pass game coordinator potentially being a head coach for the Bills or OC or whatever? Because you're starting to see the Denver coaches' names trickle out now, right? Why haven't we heard Jim Leonhard yet? I'm going to hit refresh real quick on my NFL news feed here and just make sure nothing is popped since we went live. Doesn't look like anything's changed, okay? So, yeah, so nothing's changed. So why isn't Jim Leonhard being mentioned, guys? Where's his interviews at? He interviewed with Dallas. They already filled that role, right? Obviously, the Jets and the Giants were a big landing spot for him potentially. I don't even know if those have been filled yet as well. Why isn't his name being mentioned? And again, it was highly reported that Matt LaFleur and Jim Leonhard, there was mutual interest there. Is there something cooking behind the scenes there? I don't know. Probably not. Probably not. But we're just trying to, what I need, you guys, I can't remember what TV show it was. I can't remember what it was, but you guys remember the meme, the GIF where the guy's got the conspiracy theory board and he's pointing at somebody. Help me out in the chat. I know what y'all are talking about. And he's laying a, that I feel like we need a board back here with all these different names, right? And okay, who could potentially go where? I don't know about you guys, but this is an exciting time. I was planning on talking draft today, but this is really, really interesting to see. There it is. Thank you, Nick. I knew somebody'd have it. Always Sunny in Philadelphia. So there's just always something happen with the coaching carousel that I think it just makes for great conversation. And really it gives us a better understanding that in the year 2026, how things are constantly changing and evolving, we can remember what happened last year. Cheo got it too. Thank you, Cheo. Appreciate you, buddy. Paige and Dr. Crutch as well. So, again, just keep your eye on some of these other moves. Diana Rossini tweeted out, the Philadelphia Eagles continue to search for their next offensive coordinator. They're set to speak with Houston Texans quarterback coach Gerard Johnson. Johnson spent one season in 2020 with Nick Sirianni on Indy's offensive staff. Why am I mentioning that? Well, now you're seeing Houston coaches get interviews. Why have we still not heard from Jim Leonhard? It's kind of, am I the only one that thinks that's kind of weird? No, it wasn't Family Guy, J. Cole. Am I the only one that thinks that's a little strange? You know what I'm saying? That I figured Jim Leonhard would be one of the top. All right, bang, here comes the second interview. Maybe it's coming today. Who knows, right? Let's see what surprised O.J. Simpson face always cracks me up. It says, what if Leonhard comes in as a defensive coaching assistant or our pass game coordinator? See, that would be a lateral move, right? And first of all, Denver can block it. Not that they would. Maybe they'd let it go, right? Now, you got to steer it towards, okay, Denver has to allow it. Now, why would Jim Leonhard do that? Why would he just make a lateral move? Why wouldn't he just stay put in Denver? Well, his family's back home in Madison. He can come back to Wisconsin, right, and have pretty much the same position that he had in Denver if Matt LaFleur will allow it, right? So it's really interesting. It's really, really interesting. And also, as I think it's Chris N says here, maybe this is why we're not hearing Jim Leonhard's voice anymore as well. He says Jim Leonhard's teed up to slide into the Broncos DC spot, right? Because if Vance Joseph gets a head coaching job, but again, I'm not hearing much about Vance Joseph this morning. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, that's a great point, Chris. And that's probably what's going on is I'd say Jim Leonhard is telling people, and maybe he told Matt LaFleur that as well, that, hey, look, if Vance gets a job, I've already been told I'm going to be promoted to defensive coordinator here and I'm going to stay here. That would even push Matt a little bit further. Go, okay, Vance is probably going to get a job. Let me go ahead and sign Jonathan Gannon before the Giants and whoever else tries to swoop him up, right? So that makes a lot of sense to me as well. So great point there, Chris. Appreciate you, buddy. Now, I took a poll question out yesterday. I wanted to see how the fan base felt about Jonathan Gannon being hired. Once again, the mentions, the replies on X would make you think that 90% of the fan base hates this hire, right? And this is why we always do the poll questions. We want to really test the pulse. Forget my bias. Forget anybody's bias here in the chat. Let's poll the entire fan base, whoever wants to vote on X, and we got 697 votes. I feel comfortable. That's a pretty good sample size, right? Packer fans, how do you feel about the Jonathan Gannon hire? Love it. It's okay. Could have done better or hate it. Looking at the replies, you would expect, over 50% to say they hate it, right? It's actually leading the way 49.6%. It's okay. All right. Second is could have done better at 21.8%. So it's like, don't hate it, but could have done better, right? Then it's love it at 17.9%. Last place is hate it. So again, looks like almost half of the fan base is on board with it's okay. What you got to do here is take the two positives and compare them to the two negatives, right? Love it and it's okay makes up for, what is that, 66%? That's just above 65%, right? 66% of the fan base that voted here are saying they're okay with it. Essentially, they love it or they're okay with it. And you got 32%. Only 32% of the fan base actually don't like it. So again, the very loud, very trying to be nice here, very quick to tell you you're stupid at how you fan and how you see the team and how you see the coaching staff minority of the fan base, because they're always the ones that come in and tell you why you're an idiot and this is why the Packers suck and blah, 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 blah. So with all that being said, that's how the fan base sat. And I did refresh that right before we went live. And then, of course, I think I mentioned this earlier, but I went ahead and tweeted it out as well. Rob Demovsky just now with Jen Latta on ESPN Wisconsin, quote, "It is possible Steno ends up in Tennessee. And I would be stunned if there aren't a couple of current Green Bay staff members on the Dolphins staff." So he's expecting at least a couple, and that's the words he used, a couple, I'm pretty sure, of Packers staffers that are going to go to the Miami Dolphins, right? Especially if Anthony Weaver gets a head coaching job. Guess what he's going to do? He's going to poach the current Dolphins coaching staff as well and try to take them. So now there's going to be all kinds of voids left. So obviously he can't take everybody. At some point it's going to be a lateral move, he being Halfley, of course. But just keep that in mind. That's what he said. And then he was asked, is Rich Bisaccia safe? And Rob Demovsky's quote was, and I think he even said the fans aren't going to like this, but he said, it sure looks like it, is what he said. And he said that's when he went on to say that everybody in-house absolutely love Rich Bisaccia. So that's the latest around the coaching carousel and how it applies to the Green Bay Packers currently. I'm curious to know what everybody thinks in the chat. How do y'all feel about all the information we covered? Who would be your top OC choice? Who would that be? If you could, right now, you're taking over right now, you're in charge, who would be your top offensive coordinator choice? What angle would you take? Would you promote Jason Vrabel from within? Would you go outside of the building and try to get somebody else? Would you go try to lure Mike McDaniel to come in and coach with Matt LaFleur? Here's the other thing. Is Mike McDaniel going to be willing to not call plays? Because we know Matt LaFleur, I mean, listen, that's Matt LaFleur's strength. When you look at a head coach like Mike Vrabel yesterday, excellent job being involved in the game, calling timeouts when you need to. You could tell he's a Bill Belichick disciple, right? Like that's his strength, right? I don't even know if he calls plays. I don't think he does on defense, but he's just kind of a global head coach, right? And then you got head coaches like Sean McVay that call the plays, right? And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Mike McDonald, I think that's his name, not Mike McDonald. Yeah. I get them mixed up between Mike McDaniel and McDonald. Coach McDonald with the Seahawks, I think he calls plays on defense, right? Matt LaFleur's strength is calling plays. I mean, you had the fifth best passing offense in terms of yards per pass attempt last year, even with all the injuries. No Tucker Kraft, no starting center, without Jaden Reed from week 2 to most of the season. Didn't get Christian Watson back till November, right? You had all this thing. Josh Jacobs' knee was blimped up the last 6 weeks of the season, and still Matt LaFleur figured out a way to have the passing offense fifth best in the league. So let us know in the comments, what do you think about this coaching cycle here? Who would you hire? Who would you bring in? And let us know in the comments if you're watching this back later. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, click the bell icon so you're notified when we do go live in the future. All right.